We have got a monster episode of Inside the Lines for you here today. Formula One announcement, new schedules come out. Tony Stewart not so happy with NASCAR's decision to pick Bristol over Eldora. The Pro Invitational Series might be returning, and Kaulig Racing announces its newest driver for the Daytona 500. Yo, what is up everyone? My name is Jett Krause and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Lines. Got a jam-packed episode for you here tonight. This is probably going to be uploaded around hopefully 8 o'clock at night depending on my schedule. So do apologize for the wait, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about. As always, if you haven't already, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. More content does mean a lot to me and this channel. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's start off with Formula One. Now, they released the original 2021 schedule a few months ago. But at least me, I had a real good feeling that more than likely it was not going to be the final draft. There was going to be some form of changes or different type of announcements as we get closer and closer to the actual season in 2021 due to the fact that F1 is worldwide and we're living still in times of COVID. Different countries, have different policies, different sanctions, and also different countries also have different rates of how severe the virus may be. Like, for example, in the UK right now, I think they're in tier 3 or tier 4 lockdown, whatever, but it is bad over there at the moment. In the US, some parts of the country like California are horrible and some parts are pretty good. Just depends on where you are. So yeah, more than likely F1 was going to have to make some form of change as you get closer and closer to the season, and a couple of days ago they did. So 4 main changes have taken place with the new F1 schedule. The first change, Australia will no longer be the season opener and has been moved from round 1 to round 21 and will take place from the 19th to the 21st of November. Taking its place will be Bahrain. That's right, they will host the season opener for the F1 campaign in 2021. Now this is not uncommon. In fact, Bahrain has been the season opener, I believe, in 4 different occasions, 2006, and I believe also from 2010 to 2012. So this is not new stuff for Bahrain. But a huge change will be the second round added to the campaign. Imola will return back once again to Formula One. Last year they made its return after a nearly more than 12-13 year hiatus, and it was supposed to be a one-time thing due to COVID-19. And when they announced the 2021 schedule at first, Imola was not on that schedule. But with the recent changes, they have now decided to add it onto this calendar as the second round, which I absolutely love. Imola is a fantastic racetrack. It was loved by both drivers and fans when it was put on for the schedule last season. So very cool to see Imola back once again on the schedule. Now round 3, that is supposed to be China. At least that's what I believe. However, discussions are still ongoing regarding China and how its economy and how it's going to operate, because let's be honest, they were the epicenter of the coronavirus. So you do have to be a bit cautious when you're going to a country that basically started this whole thing. But yeah, currently at the moment, that's why you see the round of 3 slot as blank. That is supposed to be China's spot, but if discussions fall flat and F1, cannot race in China, they're gonna have to find a new spot to take over, or they might just drop it entirely, and have it be a 22 race schedule instead of 23. And finally, the dates of Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi have all been changed, with the addition of Australia being moved from the first round to the 21st round. Sao Paulo is now from the 5th to the 7th of November. Saudi Arabia is now from the 3rd to the 5th of December, and Abu Dhabi will wrap up the season from the 10th to the 12th of December. Again, I'm kind of not surprised F1 is making these changes, with F1 being worldwide. And again, with different policies and different things going on in different countries regarding COVID-19, I'm not surprised that they had to make a revised schedule, and probably more than likely this will not be the first time we might see F1 make some changes as we get closer and closer to March for the actual season opener. Our next story now involves Tony Stewart, the owner of Eldora Speedway. That track is scheduled to host a race for the Superstar Racing Experience in the summer of 2021. It was dropped from the NASCAR Truck Series schedule this year, and people were wondering, well, why is that the case? Tony Stewart gave an interview with Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic that offered a bit of insight as to why Eldora was dropped from the schedule. Bianchi asked a question, so Eldora no longer having a Truck Series day is due to other factors. Stewart replies saying, quote, "I'll be honest with you, the NASCAR deal at Eldora was more of a different set of opinions with the Bristol Cup race and had nothing to do with the SRX. and NASCAR didn't take Eldora off the Truck Series schedule, we chose to not renew our contracts with them. Bianchi then followed up that statement by saying, "Were you upset that Eldora did not get a Cup Series race?" And Stewart replied saying, "Yes, it was frustrating that Bristol got a dirt cup race after we have been doing 7 years now and showing that we can do it and do it right. It is what it is." Now, Stewart also gave responses regarding the SRX and how NASCAR at first was not too keen on the decision because they at first thought it was going to be another stock car racing series to compete with NASCAR, which is not the case. He also said that the SRX will not be doing 1.5 to 2 mile racetracks. It's really going to be only short tracks and road courses, at least for the short-term future. But yeah, that part about the Eldora really strikes me. And I think he's 100% right. I mean, Eldora has shown that they can host a NASCAR race. Now, hosting a NASCAR truck race and a NASCAR Cup race are two completely different things, and how you approach and how you prep up is two completely different events. But still, in the past 7 years, Eldora has shown that they can handle the pressure of hosting a Cup race. And I do find it annoying that NASCAR decided to go with Bristol because, again, Bristol is not a dirt track. It is not meant for dirt. It was built for asphalt or concrete, whatever, short track racing, not dirt racing. If you're going to go to a dirt track, go to a track that was built for dirt. Eldora, one of, if not the most popular dirt track in America, I think it would be a perfect place for NASCAR to go to Eldora, maybe have a triple header or just have the Cup Series and trucks, whatever the case may be. I felt like the better decision would have been for NASCAR to go to Eldora for trucks or for dirt rather than Bristol. But more than likely, Marcus Smith, who was one of the big dogs of NASCAR, who owns Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, more than likely had a major say in this. And, NASCAR and SMI, they're so tightly, close together. He probably had a bigger influence and probably, paid a bit more money or had some form of influence to encourage NASCAR to not look at Eldora and look at Bristol. Again, I want Bristol to succeed. I want it to be a success, but again, if you're going to go to a dirt track, go to a track that's built for dirt. Don't just don't go to a track that is not built for dirt, making it a hybrid and transform it into dirt. It's just, yeah, but that's my opinion. I think Stewart has every right in the world to be frustrated with NASCAR because they spent 7 years showing NASCAR. Because again, when it was first announced in 2013 that they were going to be doing this, there was a lot of pushback because NASCAR hasn't been on dirt since the 70s. Now they're going to go back. People were wondering if Eldora was able to handle this. They've shown they can handle this. And now NASCAR is going to say, nah, we still don't believe you. We're going to go with Bristol, which, whatever. But yeah, I understand why Stewart is frustrated. I'd be frustrated, but we'll see what happens. I'm excited for the SRX. Again, I'll leave a link to the full article and description down below if you do have the athletic pass, because he did discuss more about the SRX and what the future plans for that team or for that series is, and also a bit of inside info about the series. And it should be a lot of fun. Again, summer 2021. Can't wait. And now for the first time in a while on this show, Inside the Lines Rapid Fire returns. We have our 4 or 5 stories to talk about. Here we go. Chase Elliott has a new sponsor to replace the leaving PepsiCo/Mountain Dew sponsorship. Team Hendrick has announced that it has landed a new beverage category sponsor in Keurig Dr. Pepper Allied no sugar energy drink brand Adrenaline Shock, which will be replacing PepsiCo/Mountain Dew. Adrenaline Shock gets primaries at Atlanta in July, as well as Talladega in October. And the sponsor also announced that it will help Chase Elliott's non-NASCAR pursuits, such as the Snowball Derby. NASCAR released an update on the next-gen car, which is set to premiere in 2022. NASCAR and Kurt Busch traveled back to the Charlotte Oval to work on some things that it gathered from the recent test at Charlotte with Martin Truex Jr. and Kurt Busch, as well as Daytona with Chris Buescher. John Probst on verification tests of some of the updates with the next-gen car with Kurt Busch driven on the Charlotte Oval. He said, quote, that we were able to validate some work we've done since our recent test at Charlotte and Daytona, and that, quote, we are happy with what we saw on the track today. Kyle Larson will have a brand new spotter in 2021. Chris Monez, who was fired from Team Hendrick after recently liking and saying some things that were very controversial on social media, he has been fired and will be replaced by Tyler Mon, who served as a spotter for Rick Rare Racing in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2020. He he will take over spotter for Kyle Larson in the number 5 team this season. An update in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, fan favorite Ryan Sieg Racing announced that they will transition from Chevrolet engines to Ford engines with Yates power in 2021. The team had an unbelievable 2020 season, making it as far as into the round of 8 in the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs. And finally, we ended off with a pretty cool story. For the first time since 2003, an openly LGBTQ driver will be participating in a major stock car racing event. He'll be running in the ARCA Menard Series at Daytona. We're talking about Devin Rose, a 22-year-old driver from Burlington, Iowa. He will also be participating in 2 NASCAR Truck Series races, both on dirt at the Knoxville Raceway as well as the Bristol Dirt event. Yeah, and this is really cool to see. Very cool to see different types of diversity and representation, going on with the sport. As of late, we've seen more racial representation, like with blacks, Asians, and different types of races come into the sport. Also, women come into the sport, but very rare have we seen, LGBTQ people being represented in the sport. And I'm talking about from the people within the garage, like in the team or as a driver or whatever. I know there's a lot of LGBTQ fans that are, very, very passionate about NASCAR. And I've always been looking for someone to be able to represent the sport. Now, there is one guy, Ryan Hines, part of SHR, who is a gay team member who posted that podcast with him and Ryan, and he got a lot of love and support from him. So to see Devin Rouse also get the same type of love and support from everyone in the NASCAR community was very, very cool to see. And I wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully he does really good in his ARCA. I believe this is ARCA debut at Daytona, and also very excited to see what we can do on the dirt of Bristol as well as Knoxville, because that's where he grew up. He grew up on dirt races, so really cool to see what he can do there. I just love different types of representation coming into NASCAR, so yeah, it should be cool to see what he can do in at least his 3 races in 2021. He might have more races coming up in the future, who knows, but as of now, only 3 races. ARCA, Daytona, and the 2 truck races, and hopefully he can have some really good times down there. And hopefully he can have some really good runs in those 3 races, and hopefully he can have more runs in the future in NASCAR. Up next, we got Miguel Paludo. Now, you probably remember Miguel Paludo more than likely from this crash he took back at Daytona in 2012 when he went up into the air after a hellacious hit he took into the inside wall. He was driving for Turner Scott Motorsports in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. He left NASCAR, I believe, around 2014 and 2015 to move back to Brazil, where he competed in the Porsche Carrera Cup Series, and he was, I believe, a 6-time champion, including a champion of the last 3 years. Well, he's making a return to NASCAR this season, competing in 3 of the road course races for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, the Daytona Road Course, Circuit of the Americas, and Mid-Ohio for Junior Motorsports in the branded number 8 Camaro. Now, the reason why it's branded, because branded, not only do they sponsor Justin Allgaier in NASCAR, but they actually sponsor Miguel Paludo in the Carrera Cup Series. So it kind of makes sense. Brandon's already with Junior Motorsports. It's an easier transition. And yeah, this is really cool to see. Very cool to see Miguel Paludo not only have a shot at, possibly maybe even a win. I mean, he's in top equipment, and on top of that, he's racing at events that are for his style, road course racing. So hopefully he can have some good runs there and maybe even steal a win, possibly. I mean, let's be honest, all the international drivers that have come into NASCAR, where have they shined the brightest? On the road courses. Dara Franchitti, Watkins Glen, Montoya, Watkins Glen 2010, and Finion or Sonoma 2007. Anytime an international driver is racing in NASCAR, they shine the brightest on the road courses. Up next, we got the Pro Invitational Series. Now, you remember the Pro Invitational Series. Back when NASCAR was on a hiatus due to COVID-19, NASCAR and iRacing put on this, I believe, 7 or 8 week Pro Invitational iRacing Series, where they took NASCAR drivers from Jimmy Johnson to Denny Hamlin to Kevin Harvick to, retired NASCAR drivers like Dale Jr., to even, some people that you probably never heard of on the racetrack, like Garrett Smithley and Timmy Hill, and give them a spotlight and put them out in front. Were competitive, and Hill won a race at Texas. It was a very fun and entertaining 8-week sort of mini series. Well, it looks like it might be returning in 2021. Bubba Wallace put out this tweet a couple days ago, and it says that debating on whether to update my iRacing account, been since my rage quit. Now, if you know why he says that, back at Bristol when he was driving the Blue Emu car, he rage quit after having some issues with Clint Boyer. Blue Emu called him out, and it created this whole mess. Well, his boss, his boss, Denny Hamlin, retweeted Bubba by saying, "Hey driver, I think you're gonna have to update your iRacing account, hashtag Pro Invitational." Now this could be one of two ways. He could just be, trying to start up drama, like, oh hey, say Pro Invitational, this is gonna get people talking. But I think this might actually be happening. If you remember, a few weeks ago, we talked about on this show that NASCAR is going to be looking at ways to fill in the time gap or to fill in the dead air that practice and qualifying was originally going to do. If you remember, only 8 races of the 36 race campaign will have practice and qualifying. So 27 or so events, it's just going to be show up on Sunday, race, and then go home. So that means that nothing is going to happen on Friday and Saturday. And if they are thinking about it, I wouldn't do it. Simply put, to be honest, I think the Invitational Series ran its course. I believe, again, I think there was 8 races. I was already done with it after 6 or 7 races, Like, I didn't need to see any more. NASCAR already announced it was returning near its end, and it sort of slowed down its hype or its progress, I guess you could say. So I was already done with it before it was actually even done. And a lot of people were as well. On top of that, if you're going to bring it back on Friday and Saturday, you're going to have a lot more competition. It's not like back then when it was actually COVID and it was, at least early on back then, there was no sports going on. You had NBA 2K and Madden NFL, tournaments, but it didn't have the same feel compared to the iRacing and Invitational Series. There was nothing going on. So really, that was the only thing that people needed to look for. Now you got baseball coming back up, I think in the summer in the summer, I believe. You got March Madness coming up in March, college basketball. You got the NBA, NHL starting tonight. You now have real sports coming back this time around. And it doesn't matter how big the Pro Invitational was, you put up real sports against a online simulation or video game, whatever you want to call it, Pro Sports is going to destroy iRacing. So it's just not going to have the same amount of hype. Not many people are going to be as invested into it as they were before. On top of that, probably not a lot of the drivers that you saw in the Invitational Series are going to be back for, let's say, version 2 of this. Like maybe Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, or Kurt Busch. They probably, don't want to participate in that. Focus on just the real race at hand on Sunday. Now, you might have some drivers do it, like maybe Denny Hamlin or maybe Dale Jr. or maybe Garrett Smithley or Timmy Hill. I don't know. You might have some drivers do it, but I don't think you're going to have as many active Cup drivers participating in a version 2 edition of the series on Fridays and Saturdays compared to when you had during the COVID break. But yeah, those are some of the reasons I give. Again, personally don't think it would be a good idea. I know some people would love for it to come back up, and if they do, then fine. You have something to get, excited about on Friday and Saturday, but to me, I just don't think it would work. I just don't think it's going to have the same amount of hype. I don't think people are going to be as invested into it as they were back then. And you got a lot more competition with real sports this time. But we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. And now on to our final story. My goodness, this was a long episode. Kaulig Racing. Now, 1 or 2 episodes ago, we announced that Kaulig Racing was going to be making their Cup Series debut with the Daytona 500 this season, as well as run the Super Speedway and road course events. Now, I had a strong feeling that they were going to pick Justin Haley for the Super Speedways and AJ Allmendinger for the road courses. Haley runs extremely well on the super speedways. I thought he might be the future of Kaulig Racing when they eventually make the transition to Cup in 2022. Well, they made an announcement regarding who their driver will be at Daytona, and it is not Justin Haley. It is actually Kaz Grala. That's right. Kaz Grala will be making his his second Cup Series start, because remember, he drove for Austin Dillon in the Daytona road course when Austin Dillon contracted COVID-19. So this will be his second NASCAR Cup Series start, at least attempting to. And he will pilot the number 16 car for Kaulig Racing. Now, the team purchased the RCR building that was used for Germain Racing during his time in the Cup Series. And this, again, just another step in the transition from moving from Xfinity to Cup full time. If you're going to go to Cup, you need to get a bigger building. So that's why they bought the building from RCR, the one that Germain Racing first used. And I'm very surprised with this pick. Because, again, first of all, now I'm kind of surprised by this pick because, Justin Haley, he's in Kaulig Racing. It just made sense. But Kaz Grala is not too bad of a pick as well. He's run Daytona twice in the Xfinity Series and has finished in the top 5 in both events. I believe 5th and 4th. So he has pretty good results during the times he's raced in the Xfinity Series at the World Center of Racing. But I like Kaz Grala. It's not a bad pick. It's just a more surprising pick. You know, I thought they would have gone with the driver with either A, much more experience, or B, that's within the team. You know, maybe a Jeb Burton or an AJ Allmendinger or a Justin Haley, you know, someone within the team. That would make it, in my opinion, a much more smoother transition rather than bringing someone outside the team. Then again, Kaz Grala did drive for RCR. Kaulig Racing bought the building from RCR, so maybe they got that connection going on. I don't know. Kaz Grala, again, it's not a bad pick. I like Kaz Grala. I just was not expecting that. But this is actually really interesting because I think we're now starting to build a really good entry list for the Daytona 500. I believe this is 48 cars. I could be wrong. 48 cars, I believe, that are now entering into 500. There are only 40 spots. That's going to make the duels exciting, you know, because if you look at duels in previous years, you maybe have one or two drivers now fighting for spots, which doesn't make it that interesting, and the duels have been really lackluster as of late. I think the last good duels races was 2012. But so now we're going to have a good field of multiple drivers fighting for spots in the Great American Race, and I think it should make the duels on Thursday a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, that's going to conclude this episode of Inside the Lines, guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. But until next time, my name is JettMDK, and I'll see you guys next time.